Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I am so excited today. I've got director, writer, producer Quentin Lee with me. So welcome, Quentin.
Hey, what's up, Mike? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've talked about how great West Virginia is already offline. So
yeah, I enjoyed it. I guess again, my son was born in Marietta, Ohio, but the surrogate mom was in West Virginia. But she didn't like the Parkersburg hospital, so she wanted to give birth in the Marietta hospital. So I was kind of like in between there, and I would just remember every day because after my son was born, she was pumping milk for me for 2 weeks. So I was always crossing the border, going from West Virginia to Marietta and back and forth. That basically was my job for the day.
I mean, the nice thing is they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's real close. And I get it. I have a cousin that was a pharmacist in that Parkersburg hospital, and it's kind of small. It's not a very big hospital. I probably would have picked Marietta too.
Mm-hmm, yeah, she said she had because she delivered her first son at the Parkersburg hospital, and she said she didn't really like the doctor, and so that's why we were at the Marietta hospital, and so
that stuff happens.
It was a fun couple of months.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was a exciting and stressful time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in the grandfather stage now, much less stressful because you can send them home. That you can kind of spoil them, and then when you get tired, you just send them back home.
You're a young grandfather. I'm an old dad, so it's going to be another 20 years for it to happen. Oh, yeah.
It'll happen for you.
You don't want him to have a kid at 16 or 18, right? Even though they could. And you have to be the dad and grandfather at the same time. It's like,
that's right. No. That's right. Nothing wrong with that. Well, Quentin, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I can't wait to talk about the new film, but let's start this way. Talk a little bit about what got you into the entertainment business. Why'd you want to get into that? Not an easy business to go into.
No, I didn't know because I was when I saw, I forgot what movie I saw, maybe like E.T. or something, when I was like, actually I always wanted to make films even when I was 6 years old. So I was watching a lot of horror films with my mom, and they always rerun on Hong Kong TV.
Yeah.
This is horror a lot. So I thought, wow, I really want to make films, but I just didn't know how. So I just thought, well, one day I think when I was 15, just right before I left for Canada, I bought Premiere magazine, and Premiere magazine has this article that talks about how Brian, that was like an article on Brian De Palma on, he was making casualties of war, and he storyboarded every shot of the movie. Plus, they showed the storyboard of the sequence where the Vietnamese girl was kind of raped and murdered. And I was just fascinated by how disciplined he was as a filmmaker. And I thought, that's the kind of filmmaker I want to be. I want to be like, someone like De Palma or Hitchcock. And so I kind of followed that path. And then eventually I tried to apply to UCLA the first time after high school, didn't get in. And I went to Berkeley. Then I applied again for the film school. Didn't get in, but I knew I was pretty close. So I ended up going to Yale University, do a little bit more English degree, to do a master in English. Then I applied again. I was waitlisted. And
persistent.
And I said, you know what? So, but I got into USC. So they said, well, just come to LA. So I flew to LA from New Haven and went to USC for one day. And when I got home that day, I got a message from answering machine saying that I actually got into the UCLA program. So what happened was that there was this other Asian American filmmaker. He switched from the UCLA program to USC. And so the spot got opened. Then I slid into that spot and went to UCLA and canceled my check at USC. So
yeah, well,
so that's a long and short of it.
You think if you could get into USC, Berkeley, and Yale, you could get into UCLA.
Yeah, it was really hard. But the reason why I wanted to go to UCLA then was because I wanted to become an independent filmmaker. And if you go to the USC program at that point, the way the system is very competitive because they would only pick 5 students out of maybe a class of 50 to make a thesis film. So the reason I was going to film school was just to make a thesis film. So I didn't want to risk that. So I always want to go to UCLA. I know UCLA, basically you have to raise your own money, but everybody, all the 25 students get to make a thesis film. So that's a better option. So I was just actually very depressed going to USC the first day because I thought there is a big chance I'm not going to make my film. So, but prior to going to film school, I was already I just graduated from Berkeley. I said, I'm not going to wait for film school to make films. So I started making a lot of experimental videos and on just a camcorder. And that actually got me into a bunch of film festivals. And I really started around 92, 93. And I remember that I was going to a lot of film festivals during that year at Yale because I would basically do all my homework, all my coursework and reading like halfway into the semester, and the rest of the semester I would travel and go to film festivals and go to academic conferences to present papers. So
yeah. My friends and I, my high school friends and I, we have had this. I call it a cult movie, but we've had this movie that we loved, that we saw years and years ago, and I didn't know where it came from or anything. And then I was researching for you, and it turned out it was your movie.
What?
So yeah, so it's
Shopping for
Fangs.
Yeah.
We love that movie. It's got a werewolf in it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just so ahead of its time that it was 1996, and it was Justin Lin and I, and we just thought, oh, let's make an Asian American movie that's not like Joy Luck Club. So somehow during that Christmas of 95, I'd say, I said, let's Christmas break. You're gonna write a story. I write a story. We're gonna put it together like Chungking Express. So he wrote the werewolf story. I wrote the other story, and then we said we mashed together. And then somehow I was already going to festivals with another film, and a producer who was Etomagon's producer wrote me a recommendation to get a grant from Canada. Then somehow, like around March of 96, we got the grant, like 50 grand Canadian, and then we sort of made the movie with that grant, Shopping for Fangs, and And that film actually gone to Toronto Film Festival. It's kind of interesting because Shopping for Fangs was a festival darling. It gone to like Toronto, gone to like so many prestigious festivals, but have no love with like commercial distribution. I mean, I end up distributing the film
Well, that's
myself.
why I could say it's a cult classic, because it's hard to
Yeah, thank you,
find,
thank you.
but it's
Yeah,
worth it if you can find it. It's a good movie.
yeah, it's actually on Tubi. It's streaming on Tubi and also my platform am.tv. So it is around, but it's just like it was before the internet, so it's really hard to spread the word on film. And yeah, and then it's really weird. It's kind of coming back to full circle like 25 years later. I have to distribute my 8th feature film, which is Last Summer of Nathan Lee. And again, like it's interesting. It's kind of the flip side of Shopping for Fangs. Because Last Summer of Nathan Lee got absolutely no love from festivals. I got into like 2 festivals, and that's it. And then we were at the festival. We were at the San Francisco for the Asian American Film Festival, which was also the festival where Shopping for Fangs was premiered in the US. And we got like about 5 or 6 reviews, and they're all good. So I know that film. I know Nathan Lee reviews really well with critics. It just festivals just don't like it. I swear to God, like even gay festivals that usually play me, like, you know, I wouldn't name what, but all over the world, they just wouldn't take the movie. And I'm like,
Yeah, it surprises me
yeah,
after seeing the trailer that it looks great. I mean, it's like
thank
a
you.
coming of age movie. I'm excited to watch it. It
Yeah,
surprises me that
absolutely.
film festivals wouldn't want that one in there.
Did you didn't get a screener? I should send you this.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
Okay.
I've got I did send to Amara to get a screener, but I like what we like to do is invite a bunch of people over here to the studio and watch it in
Oh,
a group.
perfect. Yeah,
So
I'm
yeah,
very
so that's
curious
the plan.
because
So it was intentional.
yeah, that'll be really fun. I can't wait
We can
to.
hold like 20 people in the studio.
Oh,
So
really? Oh,
sure, we'll
wow.
invite all the
That would
you know
be
couples
really
over.
be a treat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going. I think it's going to be good. But so let's talk about it. So it's the last summer of Nathan Lee. You know what's the movie about? Where the
So it's
idea?
basically a teen comedy about a kid named Nathan Lee, and he finds out he has brain cancer just when he turns 18. And
Which you would think would make the movie a tragedy, but it's not.
no, it's a comedy, and again, like it's based on a real life incident because when I was going to high school in Montreal in grade 11, my friend Nicholas did get, I don't know him really well, but because he did have brain cancer in grade 11, and then he never came back for grade 12. So I'm assuming he died during the summer. So, and I didn't think much about it because I was like, what, like 15? And then, but during the pandemic, I would say, but it's always affected me because I always thought like, well, what would I do if I have brain cancer, realize that I only have one year to live? What would I want to do in my life? And of course, as a teenage person, you would want to have as much sex as possible and not more than, you know what? And especially, you don't want to die virgin. Who wants to die virgin? Have no
Well, you know, at
experience,
that
right?
age,
You know?
that's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you're not mature enough really to think far in the future. All you can think about is what you want right then.
Yeah. And they should, because I think young people should be having more sex anyway, because that's when, you know, that's when they're most beautiful and that's when they have the strongest sex drive. Why we don't in our culture don't really want to encourage that, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, even though I think, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of weird because in some way that, anyways, maybe it's sidetracked a little bit, but in some way, I think like you have a show like Euphoria that actually kind of almost glorifies or glorifies teen sex to something that is not realistic. And
Right.
then you have the very kind of puritanical kind of like, you know, people that don't want teenagers to at all have sex. So I guess like what is so the last time Nathan Lee for me was trying to do something kind of like real and in between, and that is basically emotionally right to being a teenager, right? I mean, you're not saying that you're just going to go have like a lot of orgies or something, but it's just that you should just be exploring, you should be exploring sexually, especially you're like, you know, 16 and above, right? So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
do you depict it as like from what I remember from being a teenager, it's like awesome but awkward. You don't know what you're doing. You know, you got to figure that stuff out. You know, you're nervous, all that stuff. Do you depict it kind of kind of like it is, because at an early age, especially, it can be kind of messy till you get the hang of stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't think the film was focused of as much as the sexual act rather than just the kind of more flirtatiousness and fun. And then I sort of leave a lot of that up to my younger actors,
Yeah.
who are basically Generation Y and Z, but then they're portraying a little bit younger teenagers. I kind of left that a lot of the creative choices up to them because it's like, I'm a 50-year-old guy or 53 years old guy. I don't want to be telling them what to do, right? Because they
Right.
probably, and again, like I think that's a really interesting way of making this film. Was I trusted my actors a lot. There is a script; it's not improvised. So, but then a lot of the creative choices, I kind of let them do. I kind of let them,
From my experience talking with
you know,
actors, they would love that, or the majority
yeah,
would love that.
yeah, yeah. I
It
mean,
make them
it's
feel like they got a voice in the project.
and it's sort of like the trajectory of me being a filmmaker. That in the beginning, that I was more kind of like a Brian De Palma producer and director. That really it's cares about every shot. I want every shot to be very precise. And then I remember I was in an acting class with an actress named Dile Selvi, and she's really into the method. So she really screamed at me in class. She's like, "Quentin, pay attention." And I thought like, well, to me, it's just like making film. It's all about the shots. It's not about the actress. And then it sort of took me like almost 30 years to understand that, yeah, it's really a collaboration. So you have a vision, but you have all these really actors that come in to kind of like different artists and doing different things. And it's a combination of providing kind of like a framework for them to color in. Let's say it's kind of like a coloring book a little bit, but it's less of that. It's just like but they do their own stuff. They create their own characters. I think that is what I really enjoyed most making this film, as being able to trust these actors that I've known for a while and to
Well, and
be
that
able to let
takes some
them.
trust, because weren't you worried that they might mess it up? Like they'd get the idea wrong, or do something that kind of affected what your vision of the film was?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm coming to a point as a filmmaker that there really is, you can't really mess up a film as long as you're emotionally truthful to those
Yeah.
moments, right? So for example, you have a scene, you have a scene about this person, experiencing, or something happening to this person. And when this event happened to this person could be sad, could be happy, could be frustrated. So these feelings are not feelings you can prescribe. You can prescribe, but you can basically say this is what's happening to you, and you have to let them do what they feel like at that moment, so that performance is more truthful than just
Yeah,
like,
that
oh,
makes
you
sense.
gotta have to be crying there. And again, like it's you can't really. So that's very interesting that it's creating that as a director, that it's about creating that guide, and yet at the same time letting the actors kind of color it and do what is
Yeah, I love
necessary.
that.
So
Yeah, so
yeah.
you're basically, your main concern is that the scene is real, or
Yes. Yes.
true
It has to
to.
be true to the moment, because if you can't act sad or act happy or whatever, because you don't necessarily feel those emotions at that time. But as long as whatever emotion that comes out is real, and you have the same starting point, and theoretically that performance should be real and better to watch.
I would think, I could never be an actor, but if I was, I would think that would help, especially if you're a younger actor, because it's easier to emote what you know. So if you're telling somebody you need to act sad, or you need to do it this way, that might not be as easy. But if you say, this is what's happening in the scene, how would you react to it? What, and they can kind of put their own spin on what comes out. I think that would be easier if I was an actor.
Yeah, I mean that's really what directing is about. At the end of the day, that I realize it's not about like just getting everything in that shot and everything is right in that frame, and it's more about having that guide and using the camera kind of like to capture what the actors perform, and that's what art is about.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love the approach with that. Is that something that you've kind of developed as you've went along, or have you always kind of directed
No,
like?
I never. I was very uncomfortable working with actors when I was in film school, because I just didn't know how to communicate with actors and didn't know how to talk to actors. But then I think all the skills comes from really being a filmmaker, just all the way growing from shopping for things to to now, like with one thing that helped me a lot was because I started doing kind of like this docu-series called Comedy Invasion, which is a lot of stand-up comedy TV series. And what's interesting about that is because it is kind of scripted, because the comic always brings their own script.
Right.
And as a filmmaker, you just kind of document kind of like what the performs, and you really can't say, oh, you should not move this way and move that way. So you kind of create an environment where you're able to cinematically shoot this comedy set. But at the same time, I really feel very satisfied to be able to make kind of like a stand-up comedy special, because the content and the performance is so truthful. There's nothing wrong with what the comic performs and says, right? And then obviously there's sometimes that the jokes don't land, and that's when my expertise come in later on in post-production, in editing, is to realize, oh, this doesn't work. And so you kind of like pick and choose these moments. So it's kind of combination. So it sort of really helped me to learn as a director how to shape an actor's performance creatively, both in terms of on the set and the post-production, by doing a lot of comedy specials, because comedy specials usually are very genuine and there's nothing wrong. It's like but at the same time, whether the audience respond to something, then that's when we start tweaking a set.
I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, of course you're editing those specials, because why would you show a joke that didn't work? I mean, it's
the
one
other
thing
thing we
if you're
could
live,
do
you can't fix that, but yeah,
the
you
other
can
thing we could
always edit
do
it out.
is to put in a little bit more laughter in it, so we can cheat too. So when you're a filmmaker, you have so many toolkits to be able to either you cheat it, you do effects to cheat certain things, or you can present it something more kind of honest. And so you have a lot of toolkits. So it's just about how to shape this piece of kind of like narrative to become the most effective. And that's just very much like directing actors. And again, like having worked with a lot of comics, I just have so much more kind of like so much more faith and trust, and also learn how to communicate with actors about what needs to get done in a situation.
Yeah, I saw that you had done a lot of the kind of stand-up stuff, and Comedy Invasion is actually a great show because it introduces you to comics that you probably haven't seen before. I know we found some that we loved, and then I reached out later to try to get some of them on the show, but I
that'd
never
be great. Yeah,
found them if it wasn't for Comedy Invasion. That's
thank
where
you.
I found them.
Thank you.
And it's really well done. They're funny.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. That's really good. So, where did you find your actors for Nathan Lee?
But Nathan Lee was that I worked with Harrison on a little short film back when he was 16, and that was like 2011. And it's like 10 years later, we met back, and I just says, "Oh, I kind of want to make a film with you because I just thought that." But he's been kind of like he came from Vancouver, went to college at USC, well, rival school. And then after many years, he's working as an actor, but still hasn't gotten a lead role. So I thought, oh, I want to like do something with him. And I have this idea that's during the pandemic 2020, in June. I had this idea to do a teen movie, but also do a found footage movie that's also a teen movie. And then I just remember, obviously, when you're thinking in the pandemic, you're thinking you can die anytime. So I thought a lot about like what my high school friend, went through having brain cancer. So all these things kind of came together. So I reached out to my writer friend, Dennis Escobedo, and we work on another movie. And then he says, like, I want to make this teen comedy about this kid dying of brain cancer. And then maybe with Harrison as the teenager. And then the three of us met. That was like June of 2020. And Dennis went off to write for like another few months, and then he came back with the script. And I wasn't sure because it was this kind of nebulous thing that I said, you know what? If you don't want to write it, you don't have to write it. but if you feel like inspired, so that was like not really something that is really, but I think, but if you write it, I promise we're going to make this film a lot faster than the film that we're working on, because that film is much more expensive. So, and he came back with the script, and then we did a reading maybe like somewhere in March of 2021. And then eventually we prepped to go into production September of 21. Then I was on post for like another 6 months or something. And actually, so Natasha is also an actress who plays Lorelei, was an actress that I worked with on a documentary called Searching for Anime Wong. And she wasn't acting in that because she was more a documentary about her playing herself, her being herself. So, but I always thought she has this energy in her that I thought like, well, I just want to. So in some way, and also Aaron guessed that I auditioned him somewhere on a short film that was not even my short film. I was producing a short film, auditioned him. Then I just remember he was really good. Then the director didn't think he was right for the part, and then somehow I remembered him. So, oh, maybe he would be great for Caleb. So I kind of like began the project with already attaching these three actors already, and then we did have to look for Dash, who was original Latino character, and then somehow we auditioned like a bunch of Latino actors, and then there was this, and then he kind of popped up, and that's what he kind of looks Latino, but he is actually Filipino. But he just kind of stood out so much that I couldn't really, I said like, well, I think that it's, so I kind of changed the role a little. I have Dennis change the role, and that Dennis is also it's Latino. So I said, well, how do you feel we changed this Latino role to a Filipino guy who's also could be a dreamer? Because there are a lot of like a lot of South Asians who are actually also dreamers, except the Latino seems to be the major of it, but there are also some, dreamers who are Asian. So
as
so
a director or a filmmaker, does it bother you when you need to change a part, or are you just like, hey, we found the right person, let's change it to fit them?
Not at all. I think that's actually a good thing, because if you discover someone that is really talented, you just kind of want to create a role for this person. So it wasn't that hard, and I just think I really wanted a Latino character because I just wanted to. I just thought of like, oh, Dreamer has to be Latino, but then but when Matthew's performance really kind of like stood out of all the actors, like there's no way, it would be a little bit sad if I don't cast him and cast somebody else which didn't connect with me as much in terms of performance. So but it was also a team decision, because like the lead actor Harrison and Dennis were also the producers, so they also agreed, and the casting director was also my other producer, Kit Dassault, and we all kind of came to this I'm not like a tyrant, I'm not like an autocrat or something, but I just even though it's my movie, you just so a lot of decisions I think creatively we made all together, and it feels good. And a little bit of an interesting thing what happened was that once I cast the movie, I thought I was going to go to production, and the major production company reached out to me and says, hey, that's an interesting movie, let me read the script. Then they read the script like literally in a day, and the next day he called me. He's like, "Oh, we really like it. We could maybe make it, and we'll give you like $500,000 to do it." And I thought, "Oh wow, I don't have to struggle anymore."
That's right.
And they said, "Well, one thing though, we cannot make a found footage movie. It has to be a regular movie, just like kind of like But I thought like, okay, well, yeah, I have enough money, so I don't have to do it like a found footage movie, though that was kind of like what I really wanted to do, because I felt like I missed a boat on like doing a found footage movie. I've never made one, and it's like next thing is like
They do
I
seem
want to
like
make
fun.
yeah, it's like Blair Witch Project was kind of like I have been a big horror fan, so I always want to make a really great horror movie, and then Blair Witch Project kind of like, hey, damn, I just really want to make that. And then obviously there's all these like found footage like. And then I was just always want to make it. Maybe I don't have to make a found footage horror movie. I make a found footage teen movie. So that was the concept of it. So they said, "Oh, no found footage movie." So I said, "That's fine." And they said, "Oh, by the way, we cannot sell brain cancer, so you need to change it. No cancer. We cannot sell any cancer." I said, "Well, but
That changes the whole movie.
He has to die somehow, because the point is that if he doesn't die, that's not the point." They said, "Okay, well, I'll work with that." Then he says, "Oh, by the way, we can only guarantee you and the writer, means you have to drop all your cast." because a major agency is going to be packaging this thing.
Right.
And I thought, oh, I feel so bad because I really attached like Aaron, Harrison, and
Yeah.
Natasha. And then I said, like, you know what? I can work with other options, but Harrison has to be the lead because I kind of wrote the movie for him, and that was basically the starting point of the project, and then they just couldn't they didn't feel they could package with Harrison as the lead, and then they dropped the project and back to where I was making a movie for no budget.
Well, did you go back to the found footage?
Yes, yeah. So last time Nathan Lee's basically found footage of me. I made the movie exactly as what I wanted, and again, like I think that.
Well, good for you for not just saying okay, whatever it is, because you got the funding. But I mean, it sounds like they wanted to change the entire movie.
That's what they do in Hollywood all the time. They say, "Oh, we like this," and they said, "We'll give you money, but you need to change this." Eventually, like you're changing these things, like, "Oh, this is not what I wanted to make." I mean, that's the horror of movie development, as you probably have heard a lot. It's just like the movie that a lot of people made in kind of like within the studio system or within kind of like a commercial financing, is that they end up making a movie that is not what they've started out to make, and usually that. And again, like this is my 8th feature, so I've done enough movies to know that, or just been in the industry long enough to realize that it's very, very bad karma just because you get a little bit more money and you started dropping people. Kind of, you use somebody different, and it's just like it never works out, because at the end of the day, that whatever that product that you create with more capital but less heart, it's gonna backfire on you. So particularly with this movie that is so
would
personal.
start to realize that a little bit, especially since we've had so many good independent films made. You think they would realize, well, maybe we need to just let the filmmaker make the film and we'll stay out of it. But they
Yeah,
don't.
you know what? I don't know, because typically I was told that if you make a movie like 3 million under, they let you do whatever they want, but that's not the case, because you make a movie of 500,000, they're gonna call all the shots, and
You
it's
didn't go back to them and say, well, what if I take 400 and I'll keep
no, this doesn't work that way. The whole idea is that they really wanted to control the product development, right?
Yeah.
Because so again, like making a film is, again, like I was saying, like it's with another podcast, it's kind of like it's between kind of like fine arts. It's in the spectrum of fine art and commercial entertainment, a product, right? So your film kind of lies somewhere in between, and it just wouldn't be all. I mean, there are movies that are all fine art, like the Cremaster Cycle or something, which is like, I forgot the name of the filmmaker, is very famous artist, but that's very fine art film. And then you have stuff that is like a Marvel movie that is just fully a commercial product on that spectrum. And your film usually lies somewhere in between. That's where it posits, and it's challenged because making a movie involves a lot of capital, and you kind of have to recoup it. And the more money you get, in the millions, the less creative freedom you have, because there are a lot more eyes. And
Well, and I guess I kind of get that, because they're wanting to make sure that their money is returned, preferably more than what they put into it. And the more money they put into it, the more they're going to want to have control over it. I guess that makes sense.
yeah.
But if it were me, I would let the filmmakers make their movie.
Well, of course, I would do exactly the same thing, just let the filmmaker make this movie. And one thing I just have to sneak in was, because I learned about producing actually being on a set, that I was the assistant. I was an assistant on this movie called The Love Letter, and it's directed by my friend Peter Chan, and he hired me as an assistant to be on that movie. It was with Kate Capshaw, and it was a DreamWorks movie, and Spielberg was on set the whole time for the whole summer. It was 1999, and I remember Spielberg was I really learned about producing from Spielberg in the sense that on the first day, he was on set most of the time because his wife was, the lead. But obviously he wasn't credited as producer, and he's just there and just making sure everything runs well. And then on the first day, Peter shot this shot, and Spielberg came over and he says, well, you know what? I was gonna tell you to do this, but you just did it. Great job. And that's really the only note he ever gave on set, is to empower the director and the filmmaker.
I love that.
I think that is so,
he
yeah.
gets it.
Yeah. So after just being on the set with Spielberg, I realized good filmmaking is really about empowering the director and the writer and the filmmaker. It's not about just like yelling at them and changing all these things. And then, but over my course of career, I work with all these crazy people, and you realize, those people are not really good producers or got good kind of like, filmmakers kind of thing.
Right. Right. When you do a table read, have you ever done one where it just didn't sound like you thought it was going to sound? Have you ever done that and then had to go back and rewrite? Maybe the jokes didn't hit or whatever it is, but the read just didn't go well. What do you do at that point?
Well, I mean, like there are two things. Sometimes it's the script problem, or sometimes it could be the talent problem. It's kind of interesting because you mentioned that, because in the beginning of Last of Nathan Lee, after Dennis wrote the script, we did have a table read. Yeah. And then I sort of like put together the people that I want to cast, and which is Natasha, Harrison, Aaron, and then also Drew. And then there's this one guy that played Dash that I thought, oh, he would be right, because again, like I met him on another short film, and he has a smaller part, and he has the right looks and stuff. And then when he did the reading, he was just, that role just did not come alive. So at that point I realized, okay, well, I realized that he's more of a model than an actor, and that's why. So I was basically made to do a tough choice to basically to cast somebody else, kind of thing,
Right.
So I mean,
and I get that, because if it's not right, it's not right.
Yeah, and I didn't make any promises. We just, would you mind doing this reading for me? I did that with all the actors, and then somehow most of the actors work out except for that one actor that was a pretty, it's a very major part. So I have to make the tough choice to really look for somebody, and that's when we put the casting call out there.
Yeah, I think that stuff is interesting, because it's making a film. It's so involved. And it takes so long, especially when you're doing it independently. It can take years to get a film.
I mean, we started developing in 2020, and it's what, 2023. And but that's a given, because I've been on so many movies, just from developing it from a grain of an idea all the way up till releasing it. It's always going to be 3 or 4 years without like kind of like it's just that long, and you really have to have stamina to be able to remain passionate within these 3 years. So imagine you make a movie that you didn't like, and my friend, it's funny, my friend actually worked with another director that I guess the director really didn't care for making this movie. So she thought she was just a director for hire. She worked for those four weeks, turned in a really rough cut, and then left the project, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm not that type of director. Like, I'm the type of director that really likes to, even as a producer, I always develop an idea from a grain of an idea all the way. I see it all the way to distribution. It's always 3 or 4 years of my life. So I work on like multiple projects. That's just, I saw
you've got like 30 projects in development.
I have to send you this movie that I produced that I really like. It's called Chink. And again, it was made in, I think, 2010. But then it went to festivals. It got like an award. It's basically about the first Asian American serial killer. So, but then and we got so much flack from it, because it was before Justin Chon did Gook, and then people were trying to make us change the title. We got some kind of like protests from kind of this Asian American organization, and they said, "What? But we're Asian American. We're making this thing called Chink. What's the problem?" So even when it got sold to a distributor, they had to change it to something like #1 serial killer. You're like,
yes.
And finally, we're getting the rights back after 10 years, and then it's been somehow 13, 15 years down the line, and I'm trying to remarket the film as Chink, and because if you don't use that title, I don't think the movie works at all. Like, what is #1 serial killer? It's so much of it is.
Yeah, that doesn't interest me when you say it that way. Where the other one, you're like, well, what the heck is that going?
Yeah.
It kind of grabs you there, because we look at that as kind of a derogatory term, so it makes you kind of interested. Like, hey, what's going on with that movie?
Yeah. So that's the challenge, like dealing with the more commercial world. You always have to make some compromises, and
Is it difficult juggling that many projects at one time, or is it because they're all in different stages then that allows you?
Yeah. So I was listening to an NPR interview with Carol Baum, who's a really long-time producer, did like Dead Ringers and Father of Pride. And basically she said like, well, what's your first advice to a producer is that you have to be developing at least 10 to 12 projects at the same time. Otherwise you couldn't survive, in the sense that you're developing something might be going in production. If you only have one project, it's your life is
You're
really
going to
hard.
need another job.
Yeah. You really need a slate of like, I would say at least 5 projects to be able because your projects always go into production and at different phase, so.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But yeah, it was still impressive reading down through there because I was like, when do we get to his filmography? We're still on the developmental side, but eventually you get to it and it's impressive too. But yeah, that was a lot. You got a lot going on.
I hope you don't mind, I have these crazy birds in the background, but this is the only office where I have
That's what
actually
that
a
was.
nice light.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no,
Because I know the video
pet
thing
friendly.
yeah, and it's a video thing. If I go to I have an office, but it only has like a blank wall, and then my bedroom is a blank wall. So so this is
How many
so
birds do you have?
I have 2. One is turning 18. It's a cockatiel, and the other one is show you so that people
Yeah, let's see them.
So the rule about filmmaking is that if you see the sound source, it's okay to have them make noise in the background. If you don't see a sound source, then that really annoys people, because people are like, where the hell is these birds are coming from? So now you see them, it's like, it's fine.
Yeah, that's a nice
So this
bird.
guy is 18 years old. And then he has a partner that's actually just 2 years old, because
How long do they live? That seems like a long time.
they could live till the oldest cockatiel lives till 30, and then the youngest, I mean, yeah, but his family, he has a wife, he had a wife, a daughter, and they had a son with a daughter, but that family line died after like 10 years or something. So, which is kind of sad. So now,
Yeah, that way it always is with pets, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good looking bird.
Yeah.
Did you ever like when you were growing up and your interest in film started, did you ever consider going into acting?
I did. I actually took acting classes, and I realized it's not what I want to do, because I don't want to do scripts. I just want to create my own scripts.
Yeah.
And people would say like, why? And I would, if you were a teen, I was 16, I was taking acting classes, and they always give you these scripts that are like play scripts, and they're very kind of boring. But I really want to reenact a scene from Poltergeist, and I want to be the female lead. So it's like, I want to be Joe Beth Williams or something. I don't know. So like,
that'd be a good role.
So for me, I realized I don't want to perform. I never wanted to perform. I just wanted to be to create stuff,
Well,
And
I love that you look at it as art, as you should, and so it's really no different from painting or sculpture or anything. You're creating something new and putting it out into the world.
yeah, but I did start off I did act in my first couple of short films, especially my first one called To Ride a Cow, because I couldn't find actors. So I introduced myself, and I have a lot of like kind of sexual stuff. It's like, it's about like this guy who is in love with this bisexual guy who also has a girlfriend. So I just had me and my boyfriend then, and then my another girlfriend to play this role. So like, everybody's very ashamed of the performance. I couldn't even show it anymore, but that was my beginning. So I made that short film. Then I started like working with actors, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I started out. So until really,
that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're like a De Palma and the Hitchcock fan, because I always was too. They're so talented, and I always liked it that you can always, like, even if somebody didn't tell you, you would know who was making the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that an auteur, it's kind of like I never aspired to be an auteur, but then I end up making kind of like auteurish film, because but I'm definitely not Jean-Luc Godard. I don't have the respect. Like go down.
Well, I don't know. This one looks amazing. I'm excited to see it. Yeah, we'll make it. I'll have to send you some pictures. We'll make a big to do.
Okay. Thank
But
you. Thank you.
yeah, I think it looks awesome because it's kind of a coming of age movie, but with a completely different twist. I mean, we've never seen one where you've got somebody that's dying, but they're also trying to live their life as a teenager.
Absolutely. And also like one thing I wanted to make this film that with like an API or Asian American Asian API character lead is that I'm not sure remember 16 Candles.
Oh, I love 16
So
Candles.
so
But
yeah, so
I know
basically
where you're going because it doesn't represent real well.
Yeah, there's this character called Long Duck Dong, and basically this character, because it was made in 1985. I think I just bypassed that because I was already almost going to college then. But I think that character traumatized. Actually, he's a friend of mine too, Getty Watanabe. But that character really traumatized a lot of Asian American males
And he's a good
North
actor.
America. Yeah, no, he's a great actor, but I think that was kind of considered this awful stereotype, and then so in some way that when I want to make Last Summer Nathan Lee, I wanted to make a little bit of like an Asian American, have a positive portrayal, or just like an interesting portrayal of an Asian American male, and that it's not really done a lot. Even now, I don't think you see a lot of
gotten better, but we're still not where we need to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I've been I've been rewatching Cheers and Frasier.
Mhm.
You know, Frasier, he came out with a new version of Frasier. So I was like, that's a good time. Always enjoyed those growing up. Well, when you go back and watch that stuff from the 80s and the 90s, a lot of that stuff you wouldn't see that on TV now. We've gotten to the point where we don't, some of that stuff wasn't good. We just you saw it regularly, so you never thought about it. But now going back and looking at it, and you're like, oh yeah, that didn't age very well.
Yeah. But I mean, I love John
sure.
Hughes, and I just love like Pretty in Pink and whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
me too.
and then this is kind of my opportunity to make something that it's about my own community. So it's kind of cool.
No, I love it. I think it's terrific. I love the fact that we are getting to the point where we're hearing different voices, new voices, and not just in the country. Even we're finally getting TV shows and movies from outside of the U.S.
Yeah, like
and they're
Squid
good.
Game. Yeah,
we never really had much of that when we were growing up, but now we're getting movies from Korea and from Britain, Canada, France, anywhere you can think of where they're making movies, and it's good stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, I think technology is a friend. So as a whole, I think that, I mean, like back in the days, you would never be able to think that we could actually do an interview, right? Because it's so far away. But now with Zoom, you wouldn't even imagine we could Zoom before the pandemic. And that's to me, that's the power of technology. I think that as a filmmaker and as a person, I always think like technology is a friend. It's a friend. It should be a friend to you. And
misuse it, it's a friend.
Yeah.
Well, we were only audio up until 2020, and then
really? Wow.
everybody was doing video, and we're like, we got to get in on that. And Zoom is so easy.
So how would you record before without Zoom?
We were just audio, so we were recording on, just like a platform. We used Audible. Some people use Anchor, different platform, but or we use Libsyn. We looked at Audible. We use Libsyn, but it's just a platform to record on, and then you can, it puts out your audio recording to everywhere with that, and that was fine. We were fine with that. But then when Zoom kind of kicked in there in 2020, we're like, hey, we need to jump on that. So then we started switching to the video, and our videos have done better than the audios. Took a while, but it surprised me because podcasts, you think of people like at the gym or in their car listening to that, but there's obviously a lot of people out there that like to watch. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for Zoom. And like I would skip the pandemic if we could. I think most of us would. But that time for us as a podcast was really productive because everybody was home. We didn't have any trouble getting guests.
Oh, wow.
Everybody was looking for something to do. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
And that really, we were kind of scuffling along through. We started in 19 through, halfway through 20, and then when we started doing video, it really took off, and here we are. So yeah, not too bad. You know
Yeah.
how that goes. You struggle, and then all of a sudden something changes. Maybe you haven't done anything different, but something picks it up, and the next thing you know, you got something.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope it happens soon. I hope it happens with this movie.
I think it will. I think it looks great. I think it's a terrific idea. I'm surprised that nobody's done something similar yet. It's unique, but it's also kind of those, we love those stories, where it's kind of a coming of age story, but we also don't see too much of that with an Asian group of actors, which that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it. I think it's going to be terrific.
Great.
Yeah, so congratulations, because I know it started its theatrical release
Yes.
last Friday.
It started last week in Toronto, then it's coming to LA this Friday, and then it's going to be streaming 11 November 22nd on my platform aam.tv and also on Amazon Prime. You can rent and buy it on Prime Video.
Yeah, just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yes, yeah.
And it's honestly, I think it's a pretty good holiday type of movie that you can get together around the holidays and with your family and watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Quentin, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I knew it would be. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. Couple of little things though before we wrap up. I know you are, but anything else that you want to mention that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I completely forgot all the geek stuff that I do. I have a graphic novel out. It's called
really?
Mystery Brothers. It's a science fiction. Kind of like tween kind of thing, a throwback to Steven Spielberg Presents type of movies, and it's called Mystery Brothers. About this boy, 13-year-old boy who meets another boy that lives with his father. His father's a scientist, but his father is creating like the first household robot, and he didn't know whether this boy is a robot or it turns out this boy is actually something else. And then
that sounds awesome.
So that one, I also have a kid's picture book out called Pumpkinhead Lost His Head, and right now it's on Amazon. It's perfect for Halloween. It's a great gift that you can get on Amazon. It's on Amazon.com. So just Google Pumpkinhead Lost His Head, Quentin Lee, and then you'll find the book.
I'm so glad you brought those up, because I almost asked you if you ever wrote outside of scripts. So that's really interesting you did that. We love the kids book. I got 5 grandkids now.
Oh, perfect. Check it out. Pumpkinheadlosthis.com.
Yeah. I'll check it out. That's exciting. And I'm an ex comic book store owner, so I've always had a soft spot for the graphic novels and stuff. So
I send you the preview copy.
Yeah. That one
I'll send you a
amazing.
PDF.
Yeah. I'd love to read through that. Okay, so last thing, Quentin, before we go, where can we find you? Where can we find the movie on social media?
Movies, just lastsummerofnathanlee.com, and for me, you can find me on IG. I think on Instagram I'm Gay Hollywood Dad, but on Facebook I'm just Quentin Lee. I'm a Gay Hollywood Dad who has my son in Parkersburg, West Virginia / Marietta, Ohio. So he's a Buckeye. He's a Buckeye.
How old's your boy now?
He is 7 now. He's turning. He's turning 8. Yeah, he's still young. It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. You're right in the middle of it. You haven't even hit the teenage years yet. So.
Oh my God.
They all kind of lose their mind around 13 or 14 for a few years, but they figure it out. Well, Quentin, thank you so much, and open invitation. If you have something else you want to talk about, just holler at me. We'll get you back on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this has been terrific. Okay, hold on one second.
Can I get your email so I can send?
Director, writer, producer, Quentin Lee. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I thought he was terrific. I'm excited to see the movie. It's the last summer of Nathan Lee. It's a theatrical run. Started Friday. It's going to be in LA next weekend, and then I think November the 22nd is when it hits streaming. So keep your eye out for that. I've only seen the trailer so far. So it's a couple minute long trailer, but it looks really, really good. I intentionally avoided the screener so that we could watch it in the studio. We love to do that. So I'll update you later how I thought of the whole movie. But I can tell you right now, I'm going to like it. It's exactly the type of movie I love to watch. So I can't wait. Hope you enjoyed that. I would also tell you to go and check out Shopping for Fangs. It was made back in the 90s, so it's a little dated, but it's still really, really good. I said the last time I saw it was year before last, I think, is when we had a group of us and we rewatched because we enjoyed it so much and always enjoyed the werewolf type of stories. So I would advise you to check that out too. Make sure you look for his graphic novel and his children's book as well, Quentin Lee. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you. Welcome. Love to have you here and appreciate you so much. There's a couple ways that you can support us if you're so inclined. They're easy, they're free, and it's something that would help us out a ton. If you're a follower of the show, you know that, and you can probably tell from my accent, we are a West Virginia based podcast. We're in a little town called St. Albans. It's about 15 minutes outside the capital of Charleston, West Virginia. We're just a father and son team. My son Brett handles the marketing, the editing, all the kind of hard, difficult stuff, and he'll occasionally show up on camera as well, and me, and that's the team. So we're pretty small team wise. The podcast has done better than any of us could have expected. IMDb recently named us one of its top 100 podcasts. That's a big deal. It's an even a bigger deal when you realize that there's 15 million podcasts out there that they could pick from. They chose ours as one of the top 100. We came in at number 82. Very proud of that. So going back, if you would like to support us, a couple easy ways to do that. One, and probably the easiest, is if you go to imdb.com, and look up Two Opinionated Podcast and just look at the page. You can click through the tabs if you want. We've had almost 700 guests on. I think our show has better or as good a guest as any other show, talk show, podcast, radio show, whatever is out there. I'm very proud of the guests we have had on the show. So you can check that out. You can see the episodes. You can see who has worked on the show with that. All that's there. But all you have to do is bring the page up. And that's enough. That really helps us a lot. If you like to watch, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All that we would ask there is that you would subscribe. It's free. Really does help us out. We take the traffic that we get, the subscriptions that we have, and that helps us to attract guests to the show. So it's very important to us, but it's free. Make sure to mention that because I want you to take the time to do it. So if you could subscribe to MeisterCon Pod and look us up on IMDb, Two Opinionated Podcast, really help us out. If you're an audio listener, we love that too. Just subscribe wherever you're listening at, whatever platform you're using. I also mentioned that you can listen or watch almost 700 episodes and counting on our website, meistercon.com. That'll also let you know if we're doing anything in studio, like watching the last summer of Nathan Lee, or if we're going on location, we're covering a convention. Anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there as well. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated Podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.